How's everyone doing today? It's your boy, Big Homie, another day of Gossip TV. That's A-Dog TV. Today I'm going to be reacting to, as promised yesterday, buying petrol cars. So if you're wondering about whether you should buy a diesel car or petrol car, if you could check my previous video I posted yesterday, you will see a video of me reacting to the pros and cons of owning a diesel car. Then today is petrol cars. And if you tune in tomorrow, I'm going to be reacting to EV cars. So let's see what Scott's got to say about owning a petrol car. So you guys can know exactly what's happening and what you should spend your money on. Because last thing you want is buying a car and you end up with someone else's mistake to fix. We don't want that.
Might well be a much bigger challenge than you anticipate as dealers attempt a final push on their ambitious EV sales targets, once again by rationing the sale of petrol cars. As a result, petrol car sales have been reported this month as being at an all-time low, which is just disastrous for a number of reasons. In this video we'll get into it, but first of all, a very warm welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining. I do hope you've had a better week than the automotive industry. Right, let's get into this. Petrol car rationing sends sales to record low. Autotrader believes Britain has already hit peak petrol as drivers go electric. Take that with a pinch of salt. We will be reading between the lines throughout this, of course. Petrol car sales in Britain have plunged to an all-time low as manufacturers ration supplies to hit tough electric vehicle targets. Just 29% of new cars.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I don't know the percentages, but apparently if companies can't sell enough electric cars, I think they get fined or something crazy like that. So when you're importing cars as big companies, they have to get a certain amount of electric cars as well. That's why you don't really, and obviously the petrol car prices is quite high. And if you're trying to get a finance on a petrol car right now, it will be a way higher. But for example, a Tesla, you could pay less. So earning a Nissan Qashqai and a Tesla, you pay the same amount of money monthly. So of course you're gonna be thinking, okay, you know what, I might as well get a Tesla than a Nissan. You feel me? And this is what the government is doing because they're selling it for a lot cheaper and making it make sense for people to say yes to it. But let's carry on.
Cars sold in November were petrol vehicles, according to an analysis of registration data by New Automotive, down from 42% a year earlier. By contrast, electric vehicles took a market share of 25%, up from 16% previously. It came amid a separate warning from Autotrader that 2024 would be the peak year for petrol cars on the road. The vehicles are expected to be in permanent decline from now, as the government forces manufacturers to focus on selling electric vehicles. The number of petrol cars on the road is expected to tumble from 18.7 million today to 11.1 million over the next decade, according to Autotrader. And at the same time, the number of EVs is forecast to jump from 1.25 to 13.7 million. Let's pause here because this is a bit misleading without any context. For a start, it looks very positive on the electric vehicle side, but we've seen a year of unprecedented discounting on electric vehicles. A completely unsustainable £4 billion, £4 billion have been ploughed into these in order to slash prices, and yet that 22% ZEV target has still been missed by a long shot, with only 18.7% being achieved in an overall ailing market, you must say. And even that 18.7% is likely a bit misleading, with pre-registrations and threats of fierce £15,000 fines for manufacturers and rationing all playing a part in boosting it. So now, as well as not selling enough electric vehicles, we now no longer sell enough petrol vehicles. Anyway, let's read on. The seismic change in the market comes as the government forces manufacturers and drivers to go electric through its legally enforced sales targets for EVs, known as the ZEV mandate, Zero Emission Vehicle Mandate. Under the rules, 22% of sales must be electric this year, rising to 28% next year and increasing annually to 80% by 2030. And when it says electric cars required this year, it means it. So we're not taking into account super efficient combustion engines, we're not taking into account hybrids. Nothing, only pure electric in this ZEV mandate, which in my opinion is a complete failing. Anyway, manufacturers that sell too many petrol cars are liable for fines of £15,000 per vehicle, although a number of flexibilities.
So you hear that? Companies, manufacturers that sell too many petrol cars are liable for fines of up to 15,000 per vehicle, although a number of flexibilities are built into the scheme, such as carbon credit trading. So it's like, so as much as they want to sell the petrol cars, it's not that people don't want to buy the petrol cars. It's just the government is trying to put businesses out of pocket and fining them if they sell too many. But if a customer comes into your business, your establishment, and says to you they're after a petrol engine, you can't now convince them to go and buy a electric vehicle because over if someone lives in a if you live in a block of flats, you live on, for example, is a 10-story building, you living on the second or third floor, there's no EV electric we call a charging point there. So how are you meant to charge your car? Oh, I'll give you a scenario. Say you just came back from work and normally you have 150 range. So you go to work 60 miles, you come back 60 miles. When you come back from work, you gotta go do the school run. Now you gotta sit somewhere and charge the car for about an hour before you can go and pick up your kid. It does not make sense. It's not. It doesn't suit everyone's living. It doesn't make sense. All this in Elephant and Castle, for example, all this high-rise building that they've got there. Say there's about 50 flats there, and that's 50 people with 50 cars. Where's the 50 people gonna charge their cars? It doesn't make sense. Like it's all about money. It's all about money. But let's carry on listening because it's all about money. Companies, including Vauxhall owners, it's just you know what? This is let me not take it personal at the end of the day, but it just annoys me when people think we're stupid, like we can't read between the lines.
Are built into the scheme, such as carbon credit trading. Companies, including Vauxhall owner Stellantis, Ford, and Nissan, argue the current regime is too tough. They say that consumer demand has not been as strong as expected, with high EV prices still putting off many drivers. As previously revealed, some manufacturers have rationed supplies of petrol cars to dealerships in order to artificially boost the proportion of EVs that they're selling. This is something that's been going on throughout the year. Robert Forrester, chief exec of Vertu Motors, we included a statement from him in a previous video where he was talking about, or rather warning, that manufacturers and dealers were holding back petrol or diesel stock in order to sell it next year to try and help get.
So I'm trying to understand how the thing's gonna work. So say a company ends up with 5 petrol cars and 20 electric cars. You're now telling me that they have to put the five when customer comes in after a petrol car, you tell the customer, sorry, we don't have any petrol cars, and they're gonna end up with electric car. It's like going to the shopping, a vegetarian walking into the shopping and say, oh yeah, I'm after some corn, you know. So no, we run out of that, but or the alternative is chicken. Like make it make sense. If you don't have what I want, I'll go somewhere else to get it. So it's just, it's not fair on the companies because now they're losing money because they're trying to run a business at the end of the day. They're still paying tax for the importation of these vehicles and stuff. But now you're telling them how to sell their stock. It does what? And you can only sell certain amount. Like make it make sense, man.
Towards these targets and avoid the fines. So it's nothing new. We know this has been going on. On Wednesday, Autotrader said it did not currently expect car makers to meet the ZEV mandate annual targets until 2027. Even that, probably a bit ambitious. Nathan Coe, the company's chief exec, that is of Autotrader, said ministers should again look at the current policy regime, particularly the £15,000 fines, which could pose an existential risk to car makers. Mr. Coe said the problem we see with the mandate at the moment is the fines. Generally, when you get fined in life, it's to discourage you from doing things, don't speed, pay for your parking, etc. It is not generally, we'll bankrupt you. It's not an existential thing. I think the real risk is that the fines are not just punitive, they're existential. Last week, Stellantis closed its van factory in Luton, as we all seen. Tragic, massive loss of jobs there, and blamed the ZEV mandate for the decision. Manufacturers are urging ministers to relax the requirements or boost demand for EVs with consumer incentives. Now, I'm not going to read this entire article. I'll add it in the description below if you want to finish it off yourself. I'm just not convinced that this decline in petrol sales figures is a result of decreased demand. It just isn't. It's been made out by certain sources that it is. Rather, to me, it seems like it's a very clear decline in supply. EVs, meanwhile, they're just not filling the gap, and I don't think it matters what incentives they try to shoehorn in. Now, I did say I'm not going to finish the article, but I'm going to return to it for the comments because they can be often humorous and actually quite insightful. I work in the EV charging industry, my job being to find suitable sites to install charging equipment. Interesting. In the past years, I've identified just over 50 locations that meet all the criteria for a 6 to 20 bay fast charging facility. All but 2 of them are not remotely deliverable in the next 5 years due to a lack of available power in the network. In truth, it is a futile exercise and getting worse, not better. Maybe we should all be counting ourselves lucky. We've still got plenty of power in the grid for powering our homes. If we were all driving EVs, would it be the case? Who's to say? Seismic shift in EVs, wishful thinking unless you're a millipede, climate activist, or China. Banning ICE cars, internal combustion engine cars, is communism. Once Trump becomes president in January and net zero is curtailed in the US, expect to see this act as a catalyst for the rest of the developed world. Capitalism, leaving things to market forces, always wins in the end. It's not just range anxiety, but the sheer inconvenience of recharging, hanging about for the best part of an hour or much longer, as against the 5 minutes it takes to refuel a petrol car. What you do need to think about here is the demand hasn't gone anywhere, but the supply has started to dwindle for internal combustion engine vehicles. So what's that?
So after listening to him, what I'm getting from this is manufacturers, they're being fined £15,000 if they sell more than certain amount of not electric, petrol vehicles. And that's a crazy fine. That's a crazy. So no one is really trying to do that. So that's why they're trying to push the electric vehicles. But people are still after the petrol because it makes sense to them. They want the petrol, but they can't get it. And if they are buying the petrol, they're paying a lot more for it than what they should have been paying because of the extra money here and there. So the petrol vehicles is available. And my best advice to you is if you want to get a petrol vehicle, unfortunately, you can't, it doesn't make sense buying it brand new. Go on Overtrader, Facebook Market, eBay, all these other places that you can online, Google it, just buy it. But if you was to buy a car from a private person, there's a risk if something's wrong with it, unfortunately, your money is gone. So, what do you do in this situation? Do you buy um, petrol and hope for the best? Or do you go for the EV? But if you live in the flats, you can't do nothing, depending on your lifestyle, you know? So what do you do? My bet is get your mechanic, even if you pay him 20, £30, he will take his OBD with him, go to the car that you want to buy from a private person, plug it in. You can get those ones you use on your phone. I got OBD, I can search on my phone. So you do that on your phone and find out if there's anything wrong with the car, anything visible. And when you're buying a car off the person, make sure you take a picture of the driving license and do not exchange cash. Always bank transfer. Because if anything does happen, you know exactly where to go, you know where you got it from. If they're not willing to do that, then yeah, just no matter how good the car looks, call it a day. So yeah, so my advice to you would be electrical vehicle, I'll go for the petrol. I'll just go and get a second hand one, but I'll make sure I cover my steps. You feel me? So yeah, it's your boy. Another day of Gossip TV. That's A Dog TV. Please subscribe. Please subscribe for me. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about EV vehicles, the good points and the bad points of EV vehicles. Have a blessed day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so we can get into the algorithm. You feel me? It's your boy. Peace and out.